Alright, time for another entry to our best budget or budget adjacent keyboard lineup, and today Redragon has sent over their ARLOKKS or their K742. So it's 98% mechanical keyboard, comes with linear switches, and unfortunately with kind of a beat up box. I don't think this is Redragon, maybe my mailman got a little crazy with this package, but nonetheless, let's open it up, take a look, and see what Redragon has to offer. So, first thing up when you dive into the box is your user guide. This user guide contains information such as connectivity on how to connect between Bluetooth, wireless, and wired, as well as things like function keys. Now, there are some things that this keyboard does that aren't really covered in the guide. We'll explain them here, but I wish it was included in the guide. Nonetheless, it is handy to have so you don't forget function keys, so set that aside. Next up, you have a cool sticker, or stickers, I should say, that are included, and who doesn't like stickers? So, if you love stickers like we all do, keep those. Put them on something. Next up is your keycap and switch puller. It's your standard affair. It's just a combination keycap and switch puller. Next up, you have your USB-C cable. Note this USB-C cable is going to have a 90-degree turn, and I'll get into why. Spoiler alert, it's because the USB is not on the back of the keyboard. But nonetheless, it is your standard affair for cables. It's nothing super fancy, but it overall feels pretty good. And it comes with a branded Redragon cable tie, which we do love. Lastly, you have a pack of switches, and these are 4 spare switches for the keyboard itself. And I do love that they came in a little container to protect them when shipping or transporting. I do like this rather than putting them in a bag where you risk bending pins, so definitely love to see this. But that leaves us to check out the keyboard itself, which here it is. It's the Redragon ARLOKKS K742, which we're all wondering, is it ARLOKKS from World of Warcraft? Maybe. But we may never know. But what we do know is it's a 98% keyboard with a knob. It's wired, wireless, and Bluetooth. It has a touch of the gamer look, but it's not exactly screamy gamer. We can see that we have a sloped bezel here with a hard edge that really gives a nod to Redragon's gamer side. But with the notes of color, with the white and gray and black contrast, it doesn't look super gamery, which I kind of like. I kind of dig it. I think it's a cool place, like a cool line to be, which is neat. And if we flip over the back, we can see that we have a very simple center product tag with some information regarding what model it is. We have 4 rubber feet, and then we have 2-stage flip-up feet. Now the first stage, which is the largest stage, is pretty solid. It's not the best, but it's also not close to the worst. It's definitely average. I don't think you'll have any problem if it slides across your desk. I don't think it'll collapse. The second stage with the smaller feet, they're a little less locked in place, but still not too bad, kind of average. So all in all, definitely not too shabby. Now let's go ahead and talk about how you connect this to the PC, and more specifically, like the location. Because if you look across the back here, there is no USB or any switches or anything. And that's because they're located on the side. And I don't know about you, but for me, I really don't like my USB being on the side. It's just kind of not my vibe. It's not how my desk is set up or my cables routed. But it's to each their own, so let me show you so you can make your own decision. So if you look on the left hand side here, you'll see that you have your USB slot. You have your 2.4, your Bluetooth, and your wired switch, as well as your Windows and Mac switch. On the right hand side, you have the storage for the USB dongle for wireless. And that gives you an entire overview of the keyboard itself. Honestly, coming from a gaming company, it's actually not super gamer looking, and I really appreciate that. But aesthetics aside and where locations are, I think it's time to dive into the keyboard. So we'll go ahead and grab our keycap puller and pull off a keycap. So the first thing I want to note is the legends are super clear and the color definitely pops. The white is astoundingly looking. Now this is a double shot PBT keycap, and the first thing I noticed was it's really thin. Like definitely surprisingly thin for a double shot PBT keycap. So I'm really concerned about the sound signature. Now I did try to bend it to see if it was like really flimsy like an ABS one, but it's definitely not. But I'm curious to see if we can see the same characteristics in the other colored keycaps as well. So let's go ahead and pull off a black one. And again, the legend's super clear, but we can see here that it's definitely thicker. it seems actually twice as thick as the white keycap. So that's a little concerning. That means there's going to be different sound signatures between the key presses for these. And I'm not super worried about it since like it's just an escape key, but my concern is the fact of like your arrow keys are also going to sound different than your alphas. But just to confirm, we're going to bring out the calipers, and it looks like our white comes in at a 0.8 millimeters, so 0.8 for the white keycap. Go ahead and grab a gray keycap, measure the gray keycap, and it comes in at a 1.4. Now remember, calipers can be a little finicky, so it's give or take one in either direction, but 1.4, and then the black one also comes in at a 1.4. So we have 1.4 for black, 1.4 for gray, and 0.8 for white. So it's not crazy huge off, but considering it's almost double thickness difference, it's a little concerning. It's the fact of it can change the sound signature when those keys are pressed. And I know that changing keycaps is not a big deal, but I think out of the box, all of these should be uniform. There shouldn't be one that's definitely, almost half as thin as the other ones, because it's just going to make the typing experience different when you press those keys. But nonetheless, we need to continue diving into the keyboard, so let's go ahead and grab our switch puller, and we'll go ahead and pull out a switch and check that out next. I do note here that these are in there. This is probably one of the most difficult switches to get out of a keyboard I've had in a while. Like, this plate really holds these switches in. So just be warned. But regardless, let's take a look at these switches. So these are the RPC linear switches from Redragon. They're a 40-gram linear switch. They are pre-lubed and they are 3-pin. So kind of surprising, the 3-pin and the pre-lubed. But just to also open it up to verify that it's lubed, once we pop it open, we can definitely see that it's lubed. And it's lubed generously and on all the areas that it should be. So hats off to you. This definitely is a pretty good lube job from factory. Next, we're going to check out the stem wobble. Since these are a box switch, I think the stem wobble is going to be a little less than normal, which definitely is. And honestly, after using the keyboard for a while, I must say the switches feel pretty dang good. I really dig them, so good job on that. But this is just a surface. So let's go ahead and get all these keycaps off, the switches out, and we'll continue diving into the keyboard to see what's going on inside. Alright, with our keycaps off and our switches out, now we have a bare keyboard to look at. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to check our stabilizers. Now I did note they were a touch rattly, but nothing too severe. We can see here they're definitely pre-lubed, which is a nice touch, so I think with some light tuning, these shouldn't be a problem at all. So I'll probably do that later, but for right now, we'll continue diving into the keyboard itself. Now we'll also know we have a slight flex cut or a relief cut plate, it looks like, and it's clear. The plate is clear, which I haven't seen a clear plate in a while, so definitely caught me slightly off guard. But regardless of that, we have to figure out how to get into the keyboard. And when we had it flipped over, I did notice that there were screws across the back, so I think that's going to be our entry point. So they appear to be standard Phillips screws. So we'll go ahead and grab a screwdriver and we'll fly through, getting it all unscrewed. Now there is one thing I would like to note here, is that I noticed that it appeared that some of the paint might have been chipping off of the screws when taking them out because the screw bowl got a bit dirty. So I would definitely keep a lookout for that. It doesn't appear to be anything besides maybe flecked paint, but regardless, now we have our screws out. We can flip our keyboard back over and we can simply lift off the top of the case. And just like so, our case is now separated and you're free to dive into the keyboard. Here we can see that we have just a plastic top case, nothing special here. It's your normal run-of-the-mill. We have a nice little pad foam here for the indicator lights for like num lock and cap locks. So, but set it aside, we can continue diving into the keyboard itself. Now typically, this is where we would flip up our PCB and start disconnecting things. But this is where things took a weird turn. And let me explain. Typically, when I'm taking apart a keyboard, I'll gently lift it up, and typically, most of the time, it's a flip away from you type situation. Every once in a while, you'll have additional connectors or different cables, but in this case, I ran into a problem to where I couldn't really get the PCB to flip up correctly, and it's because it was actually, there was two different connections. So you have one on the left side that is really short, so you can't really lift the PCB away from you. And then you have one in the center that connects to the battery, which you can lift really far away. So the no-brainer was, I'll disconnect the JST from the battery, and then I can lift it up to the side to then disconnect from the daughter board. But unfortunately, this didn't really work out. And it was kind of mind-boggling. I struggled with this for way longer than you would definitely think. Like hours. I spent so much time trying to figure out how to get this cable out, but it just wouldn't budge. And it was to the point where it was worrying me that if I did try to go any further, it was going to result in a disaster. It was going to be unusable. To where I was going to damage the connector, I was going to damage the battery, or I was going to damage the PCB. So I decided not to do it. And it was a hard decision. After trial and error with every kind of little method I knew of, I couldn't do it. And it really bummed me out because I really like providing in-depth reviews and breakdowns of keyboards for the community and for people that are just coming to the hobby. But this connector right here just wouldn't budge. And I don't know why. It doesn't appear to have any glue on it. It does appear discolored, so I don't know if maybe it's melted together. But overall, I'm not really sure. And that's weird. And kind of bad. So, yeah. I can't really get into the keyboard. I'm still going to tell you about what's inside the keyboard that we can see, of course. But just know, I'm pretty bummed that I couldn't get this apart. Regardless, moving on. We have foam in the bottom of the keyboard. And we also have these standoff foam blocks as well. I'm assuming these are to make sure that the PCB stays balanced across the entire bottom of the keyboard. And then we have our silicone molding as well as our battery for our wireless. And that's the bottom of the keyboard. And then also note here, I did try to take the battery out just so I could try to get the PCB out. But the battery is so adhesived in that it was starting to bend a little bit, which also made me a bit worried for the safety. So that was also a no-go. I'm just curious that if this was a me thing or if it was something that's happened to other people. So let me know in the comments below. But before we get everything back together, lastly, we'll go over the fact that we have gasket mounts all the way around the sides here. You can see the little silicone sleeves. And then we have our flex relief, our flex cut plate. And then it appears that we have maybe a switch pad and some switch foam. But again, I can't really take it apart, so I don't know for sure. Now there is nothing adhered to the bottom of the PCB. You only have the foam that's in the bottom of the case. Also note we have 3-pin, 5-pin hot swap sockets, as well as south-facing RGB. But that's about it. Now, I'll go ahead and get everything back together, and we'll head over and get VIA set up. Alright, first things first, when setting up VIA, we're going to head over to the Redragon website. We'll hit Downloads. We're going to search for the K742. Once you enter that, it'll pop up. You're going to see the JSON download. Right-click this, make sure you right-click it, and then you'll save that. Once you save that, you'll see that it saves as a JSON. I've already downloaded it, but you'll see there it saves as a JSON. And then we'll head over to usevia.app. We're going to head over to the settings cogwheel. We're going to find show design tab and make sure that's toggled on. Once that's toggled on, you'll go to the design tab. You're going to go to load definitions, select load, and then you'll select the JSON that you just downloaded. You'll load that in. Once you do that, make sure that your shown keyboard definitions is that JSON you just loaded. Once that's done, you'll go back to the configure tab and you're going to authorize your device. So simply select authorize, select your keyboard and hit connect, and then you're ready to go with VIA. Now for a quick rundown of VIA, if you've never used it before, You can use VIA to change any key assignments or any macros or lighting. To do so, you just simply select the key and then select the value that you want to change it to. So here we've changed the A to an escape key. All this updates live. You don't have to load anything. You don't have to change anything or download anything. It's pretty simple. And you have a plethora of options to choose from macros, layers, specials, lighting, custom, basics, media, all kinds of stuff. There's also support for different kind of layouts like left shift layouts or ISO layouts, which is pretty cool. This board doesn't really utilize those, but it's definitely neat to see. You can also record your own macros here if you want to. You can also save your layouts or load a layout if you have a previous layout from another board you liked. And then lastly, you can change your lighting. This is pretty basic stuff for your lighting. It's just the presets, and then any preset that has a solid color, you can change that solid color too. You can adjust brightness and effect speed as well here. And that's an overview of VIA, but now that it's set up, let's go ahead and give the keyboard a listen. So, what are my final thoughts? And well, I guess we'll start with the good, because this is going to be an interesting section of final thoughts. So the good is the out-of-the-box experience. If you're looking for a solid keyboard right out of the box and you don't plan on upgrading it or changing it, I definitely say it's not a bad choice. The sound is pretty good. You have really nice loop switches. Aesthetically, I'm into it. I'm a fan of this aesthetic. I really like the white on gray on black. I think it's very clean. It looks very good. It goes with my desk setup very well. But that's also a personal preference. But nonetheless, it's pretty solid. You have connectivity options between wired, wireless, and Bluetooth. It's also Mac and Windows compatible. So it's definitely a pretty big bang for your buck. Now, here comes the bad. Is the fact that we started off with keycaps that didn't match thickness, which will provide a slightly different sound signature depending on what you're typing on the keyboard, which is definitely kind of a miss for me. I really want a uniformity across my keyboard, and that kind of throws things off. The caveat is it's really easy to change out keycaps, but it really depends on where you're at in your personal keyboard journey. Next would be the side-mounted USB. I don't like side-mounted USB. I don't like 90-degree USB cables. That's not where I want my USB to be connected and not how my desk is set up or my cables are routed. And having to rearrange my entire desk to better fit my keyboard because I have a custom cable that's not 90 degrees is kind of a turnoff for me. But again, this is a personal thing because my aesthetic is already set up a certain way. So I don't really hold this against them, but it's just a bad note for me personally. But the last one here is the biggest turnoff. And that's the fact that I couldn't fully get into the keyboard. That connector is still bothering me. It's the fact of like the only option I had was risk prying out the battery or snipping the wires themselves. I really didn't have an option any other way. And I don't know why. It definitely didn't look like it was glued, and I didn't see any locking mechanism, and I don't know why it just wouldn't budge. I've taken apart hundreds of keyboards. I've filmed taking apart dozens of keyboards. So it's definitely weird that I've run across a keyboard that really wouldn't separate. And I'm really curious if it's everybody or if it was a just me thing. And I'm willing to accept the fact that it may be just a one-off, but still the fact that it happened, and it happened when I was filming, and we're being honest here. So for me, that's a little worrisome. And again, it doesn't matter where you are in your personal keyboard journey, because if you're never going to take it apart, then maybe it doesn't matter to you. But in the sake of transparency, and this channel's always transparent, I have to bring it up, and I want to be honest with you. But all in all, I want to hear from you. What do you think about it? Do you think it's worth the price tag of around $70? Does this check all your boxes? And where are you at in your keyboard journey? Is that cable something that would disrupt you or turn you away? Let me know in the comments below. I'm always curious to chat with you. I'm always curious to see your points of view on things. So let me know. And if you made it this far, I just want to say thank you for watching. If you could drop a like and hit subscribe, it would mean the world to me and it would help out the channel. And if you want to check out the K742 ARLOKK for yourself, the links are in the description box below. And that's it. The end. Thank you for watching. And remember, keep keyboarding.